Welcome to Badass Breakthrough. My name is Bridget Bennett. I am your host. I am a high conflict custody and divorce coach, fellow survivor of domestic abuse, and I am here to help you on your way. This show is for those who have found their way navigating co-parenting with a high conflict or narcissistic person, battling it out in family court, feeling like that journey is never going to end, maybe discovering that they are a product of a narcissistic family, and overall for those that are trying to rebuild their life after enduring abuse, whether it was through a relationship or marriage. You're in the right place. This show is for you. So let's get started on this journey together. Hey, welcome back to Badass Breakthrough. I'm your host, Bridget Bennett, a high conflict custody coach, legal strategist, 20 years in the legal field, and I'm a survivor myself of child abuse and domestic violence. I represented myself pro se in family court, and I won sole custody of my kids. Today, I'm going to say something out loud that I needed someone to say to me about 5 years before anyone actually did. Some of the most damaging beliefs I ever held about myself weren't put there by my abusers. They were the ones that I picked up and kept carrying long after I was free. In this episode, I'm getting real about the difference between being a victim of what was done to you and living inside victim identity, and how one of those was actually keeping me stuck. So if you've ever felt dismissed, exhausted, or like the system was built to bury you and is not fair, this episode is just for you. So let's get into it. Before I go anywhere with this, I need you to hear me very clearly about one thing. If you're still in this, right? If you're still in an abusive relationship or marriage and you're being abused right now, if the court is failing you right now, this episode is not me telling you that it's your fault. In fact, I will never tell you that these things are your fault. What is happening to you is very much real. I see it. I lived through it. This is so much more. This is about the part that's yours to take back. It is time for you to start taking your power back. At some point in this fight that I was on, I had to choose between two stories about myself. One story was, look what's being done to me. And story number two, what's my next move? How can I get through this? Now, both stories were true. Only one of them helped me get to the next level in my life. And I'm sure that you're already understanding where I'm going with this. Being a victim is something that happened to you. Being a victim happened to me. We are not responsible for the abusive actions of other individuals and their behaviors towards us. But victim identity, a victim mindset, is something that you become or you're actively choosing. The trap is when the second one quietly starts to replace the first. So the victim mentality starts to take over you being a victim of abusive behaviors. Like, this can sneak up onto you. It feels like staying loyal to what you went through. And if you are to let go of that victim story, we feel that we are abandoning ourselves. Maybe we're not sharing our truth. Maybe if I stop talking about it, then people are going to think that it hadn't really happened, because for a long time, we already were not believed. So it feels like the only way to make people understand it is to continue to talk about it, but that also keeps you stuck. Now, I'm not saying not to talk about it or to share your story. It's a cage and the door is open. I mean, think of a bird cage. And we live in this bird cage as victims, survivors of domestic violence, coercive control. And the door is left open for us. It is our decision as to whether or not we choose to exit. You can honor what happened to you without making it the entire story or identity of who you are now. Victim mentality is actually very dangerous to many people that I work with when it comes to our healing, when it comes to our communication, our documentation, what we're telling people in family court, so on and so forth. The reason why that is because we feel that we've been so wronged by so many people, or our ex, our abuser, their family, the family court system, the guardian ad litem. Heck, maybe you've even recognized that you grew up in a narcissistic family and you've been wronged by your family. All of those things can be true, but we can actively make a choice to not have this define who we are now. That doesn't have to define what we do with our life. It doesn't have to define the choices that we make. And it doesn't have to define our mentality. I'm going to say this probably throughout our episode is that I say it quite frequently to those of you that follow me on socials is you are a victim to no one and nothing. You're a victim to no one and nothing. Now, when I meet with many of you, we have some of these conversations. And we also talk about the ultimate unfairness of the system. There is no justice in the justice system. I'll tell you that after working in it for over 20 years. Yes, the system is rigged. Yes, it is corrupt. Yes, it is extremely broken. Yes, your ex is gaslighting you. Yes, the gal didn't listen. Yes, you feel that your ex's attorney and the gal and the judge are in cahoots. Yes, the judge missed everything. All of that can be true. And none of it changes if you keep staring at it. Now, this is the hardest point to pivot from because focusing on the unfairness feels like we're fighting, feels like we're advocating for change. It isn't. It's actually spinning. Us learning how to document in a way that helps move the needle, that's fighting. How to communicate more effectively, how to implement a new strategy in a broken system when the things that we've been doing before hasn't worked, that's fighting. Mastering BIF communication. Having your attorney file a motion to modify when you have enough evidence. Scrolling through social media on domestic violence on TikTok and Instagram at midnight is not fighting. Commenting on posts on social media is not fighting. Whatever comes up for you, I want you to hold on to that thought for a second. Like, what is it that I've been doing that has felt like to me like I'm fighting? Am I really fighting? Is anything changing? Is maybe some of these things worsening my circumstances? Now, for me, in my own journey, I had to pivot. I had to take a really good look at myself and ask myself, was I contributing at all to some of this conflict in family court? Now, I wasn't driving the conflict, right? But me being in tears on the witness stand was contributing to the ongoing conflict. It was just adding fuel to the fire. It was making this process longer. Me focusing on my ex's new partner, new wife, was adding fuel to the fire that didn't need to be there. It was getting into the weeds and distracting from what the overall problem was. And that's exactly what my ex wanted. Me thinking of how unfair it was that my ex had money to pay for attorneys and I didn't. I could barely afford groceries. Well, me focusing on that thought wasn't helping me fight. That was getting me nowhere, right? I represented myself because I had no choice financially. I had to represent myself. When I started to recognize that I was consistently feeling like a victim to all of these things, the financial struggles were real. I was absolutely exhausted by family court, by going into even domestic violence court for a restraining order, how draining all of that was, how it seemed unfair. But my focus on the unfairness wasn't improving my situation. Me focusing on how my ex was hiding his assets and his income to avoid paying child support. You know how much time I focused on that shit? On how it's totally unfair how he gets away with things? It's no longer worth my time, and I haven't focused on it in a long time, years, because it no longer served me. I recognized that I was feeling stuck and I was always feeling the same way. And it was like a woe is me. I felt like a woe is me moment, lots of them. And something just hit me. Something hit me when I recognized that things were not really changing, that I needed to bring the change. I needed to do something different. I needed to show up differently. I started focusing on myself. Like that's kind of the light bulb moment that went off. Feeling outraged by what's occurring in family court or with your ex is not a strategy. It's a feeling that we have, and the emotion is valid. You're allowed to have it, but you shouldn't live in it. Do not live with it. Let it go. If you are so focused on showing that the system is corrupt, the system is broken, your ex is lying, your ex is abusive, you're probably focusing on the wrong things. Now, I'm not saying that these things haven't happened or that we shouldn't advocate to bring forward some of these things. But if you have a legal argument that your attorney can help you present, I'm not an attorney, this is not legal advice, but of how your ex is violating consistently the custody order over the course of the past 6, 12 months, that gives you a stronger case. You already know what you need. Now, here's the part that I wish someone had told me 5 years earlier than when I learned it. And that's you have the skills. You're just using them on the wrong thing, right? Like, what did I know about myself that I had the skills to do? I knew that I was a damn good paralegal, that I knew how to document because I always documented. I was learning off of the internet and off of TikTok and everything of like having a binder and how much I needed to document and how important every little thing was. I did that. And then I worked on cleaning it up. Could I simplify this? Now, obviously, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of documents, and I have a lot of pleadings, and I still have binders. But the things that were in my binder, I'll tell you, like 90% of it never saw the light of day in the courtroom. 90% of everything that you have is not going to see the light of day in a courtroom, and that's okay. I started to document and track like the things that my ex was saying and doing, right? Like I actually used for me, I'm very much a visual learner. Maybe it's the ADHD, I'm not sure. But I created a calendar. And on the calendar, I would track like his parenting time, my parenting time. But I would also look at when there was like an uprise in his shitty behavior. And I would mark it. I would mark it with like a red or pink pen or marker. And I could see when there was more issues is like when he had the kids typically, right? Like I started to see a new dynamic. Now, the reason for me to track it on a calendar was because, again, visual learner, I wanted to be able to predict the behavior next. The feeling that we all have lived with of waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for something to change, waiting for, okay, I know that his behavior is going to be shitty again, waiting for that to happen. I wanted to be able to predict it more, right? Like I knew that if I sent a message to my ex telling him that, hey, our child is sick and they came back with a runny nose and a cough and everything, I was going to get a message back that said, no, he's not. He was fine during my time. It sounds like it's a problem on your parenting time. If I were to message my ex and talk about a behavioral problem that I was experiencing with one of our children, his response to me was going to be, well, they don't act that way at my house. It seems like it's a you problem. You should probably be harder on them. He told me that. He said that I should probably work better at disciplining our children. Now, he ruled our children with intimidation, with hitting them, with corporal punishment, and I was choosing to step outside of that. Instead of sitting there and like anticipating harm, right? And waiting for the other shoe to drop. I used it to like start kind of planning. All right. I know he's likely going to send a message if I send something like this. Okay. How can I send a different message? All right. I know that he's not going to agree to reimburse me for the kids' school supplies. That's okay. I'm going to send the message anyway. He's just going to build my case for me. That's literally the mindset that I started to adopt. I know he's going to refuse to pay his child support, but I'm going to make it look like I'm reaching out in good faith. And I was, right? Like, did I want his money? Did I need the money to help with our children? Fuck yes, I did. I could barely afford life. There was a lot of ramen noodle soup and, you know, sandwiches that we ate. But I adopted the mindset of, all right, well, I can't make him pay it, but I can send a message. So it also is going to appear to people on the outside that I'm trying to solve the problems. Because I sat in family court for hours. I heard other cases go before mine. My case, I paid attention to what the damn judge was saying. And that was basically like, okay, you're presenting all these issues and these problems, but like, what have the parties done to try to resolve them? It almost always came back to that question. So I worked on communicating better. I had a co parent communication coach that worked with me, saved my damn life, helped me communicate in a different way. And I was learning how to become indifferent through the work. Learning that, okay, the system is corrupt, the system is broken. It's coming along, right? There's changes that are actively coming, but that's not going to be my focus for my case. This is not you starting from zero, okay? You are starting out from years of being a survivor. That's important. We can flip the switch from surviving to thriving. You know your ex is not going to pay child support. You know your ex is not going to reimburse you for the summer camp that you paid. You know your ex is not going to reimburse for the medicals. Let them not do it. Who cares? Does it create financial hardship for you? Yes. Recognize that that's exactly what they want. Is it fair? No. But guess what? You are a badass bitch and you can figure it all out because you always have. That's exactly what I told myself. I'm a badass bitch. I can figure this out. My name years ago on social media, and some of my close friends still call me this lovingly, was Sassy Badass. My kids sometimes call me Sassy Badass. I gave that name to myself at the time because I was growing into that person. I was being told from colleagues, coworkers that I was a badass. And I didn't feel that way, but I was always feeling empowered when they said it to me. I've run 4 half marathons. I felt like a total badass. I started working on improving my mindset. And I'm like, you know what? All right, he's not going to pay this crap. Okay. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way. And I have. I've worked my ass off. Just like I know each and every one of you is doing the same. Okay, let me be clear about something. I'm not saying that you should forgive your ex or, ignore the behaviors. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that what you and I have lived through wasn't bad. I'm not saying to get over it. I'm not saying that you're stuck on your ex. Like that's very much victim shaming, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying to smile through it either. Not saying that it's your fault. Have you ever heard the phrase of fake it till you make it? I started faking it until I made it. What I'm saying here is you get to be furious and functional. You are able to grieve the things that you've gone through and be strategic. You get to be a survivor and a strategist in your own case. It's not either or, it never was. The day you stop letting what happened be the whole story of who you are is the day the person who hurt you stops getting to write your life for you. That's the day that you start taking back your power. Here's what I want you to do today, tonight. I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to write down 3 things that you can control right now. Don't write down what your ex is doing, not what the court is doing or what any of the players in family court are doing. 3 actual things that you can control. I'll do it with you. I can control what I'm going to have for dinner this evening. I can control my emotions that are going to pop up for me throughout the rest of my day. I can control the amount of time that I move my body today. Those are 3 things that I can control. That's it. I want you to pick one thing of the list of 3 that you just wrote down or that you will write down. Pick one. And I want you to do it before going to bed. If it's you're going to focus on your hydration, I can control how much water I put in my body today. You can. You will. That's it. This is how it starts. This is how we start to take back our power one step at a time. You were a victim of what was done to you. You don't have to stay a victim. It is part of you. The things that have happened to me in my life have made me the woman that I am today. Just like they're making you the person that you are today. For me, without recognizing it, I kind of look at it as a gift. I wasn't deserving of any of those things that were bad and terrible that happened to me. But it pushed me into this trajectory in my own healing journey. And it's gifted me with the ability to reflect on myself, the way that I was raised, the relationships that I have in my life, and how I can show up as the best version of myself each and every day. That is the gift. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you follow the show. Send it to a person in your life who needs to hear it too. And I'll see you in the next episode. Till then.